back to, I guess, the situation with me and my first companion. Him being really rough. We had our differences. There's a lot of things that I can say right now that I can complain about to him, but I won't, because all in all, even though all the hard times that I've had with him, I did learn a lot from him, and I learned how to work hard. We got to a point after the 6 weeks that we got into a heated battle between each other, and he told me, if we're gonna work this out, you're gonna talk to me about it, or you're gonna call your mission president. And obviously at the time, I knew he wouldn't understand the situation I was in because I couldn't really tell him in Spanish. I wasn't to that point yet, and so whenever you feel like you need to call your mission president, do it. In this moment of time, calling the mission president right away was the best thing. But when you have specific problems that haven't aggravated to something big yet, the best thing to do is either go to your district leader or your zone leaders. And if they can't help you, then they'll refer you to the mission president, or they'll talk to the mission president and get some advice. But at the time, calling the mission president was the best thing I could do. When I called him, he answered the phone, and he made life so much easier for me. He taught me and my companion a lesson that we'll never forget, and that is to be super charitable to your companion. It doesn't matter who they are, where they've come from, as long as you act with charity towards your companion, things will work out, and you'll have a good relationship with them. Because of that situation we had, we actually ended up spending another 6 weeks together, even though before I had been told that I was leaving the area. I ended up staying and ended up spending another 6 weeks with them. And so still had some of our differences, but we worked them out. So by the time he left and I stayed to cover the area, I was pretty well trained. But just remember too, is you'll always learn something from any companion. So you'll always learn something new. And so when I got my second mission companion, he's from Ohio. It was really nice because I could speak English to him, even though most of the time we didn't. We tried our best to speak Spanish. It was nice being able to have somebody who has come from, the same background, same situation as I was, and he was able to tell me what he has learned, and that helped me a lot. With my second companion, I was able to realize that missionary work was way fun, and that preaching the gospel was freaking awesome. And so by the end of my 12 weeks and being with him, I was on a roll. I loved it. Being a missionary was awesome. It was the coolest thing ever. And I had really good feelings. I felt good about myself. I wasn't frustrated all the time. I finally knew what to do. Spanish was getting there, definitely getting there. And so things are working out really well. And then it came to the point where it was Mother's Day, and I got to talk to my family, and it was a time where, I really missed them. There's something about being in a different country, and being like in a whole new world, and feeling like your family's so far away. It's difficult. Homesickness comes on pretty easily when you're out of the country, or when you're just out on your mission in general. So being able to talk to my family was great. Definitely cried seeing them. It was a really good thing. being able to see them and being able to share all the things that have happened. My dad, I ended up finding out that after I had Skyped with him, that all he could talk about at work was about me and how I'd grown up and become a man and all that kind of stuff. So it was really neat. After all of that, I learned that transfers were coming up and I was changing areas. I wanted to stay so bad because I felt like we were on fire in the area. It was way good. But you'll always get those areas where I guarantee every area that you go to will end up feeling like home. And then by the time it's time to leave, you won't want to go at all. You want to stay. You want to be with those people that you've come to grow and love. Your love of people will grow a lot on your mission. So transfer date comes up, and I get my new companion. I ended up going to San Marcos, is the place, was the area. It was like an hour away from the capital city, so San Salvador. My first day there was amazing. So I got there and I got to meet all of the members there, and they were having this family steak thing that was going on, and we were able to go there, and they had all these presentations that they were doing. It was really neat to be able to see them all the first day. So that first day coming in, after everything, I was unpacking my stuff. And I got my PJs and all that kind of stuff after we had done our prep for tomorrow. And that's when I got a call from my mission president. So the first thing he said to me when I was on the phone with him, and at first I thought it was really weird that he said this to me, but he's like, Elder Nicholas, do you have a testimony? And I was like, of course I do, President. And he's like, how has that testimony grown of your mission? I was like, it's grown immensely. I love the people here. The work is great. Being a missionary is so awesome. And after that, he proceeded to give me the bad news. He told me that my father had a heart attack and died. And my mom was going to call in like 5 minutes, and it was up to me to share my testimony to help my family at the time, because my family needed me. At that moment, it felt like a beginning of some sort of nightmare that had happened. I didn't know what was going on. It took me a minute to get myself together before I could even respond. And I said, okay. And he said, talk to them and call me afterwards. You can take as long as you want. And so 5 minutes ended up being like 15. But my mom ended up calling. Big long distance call. I'm sure that was a pricey phone call. But I just sat down and I told my family. So my brother, my mom, and my sister were there. I told them that about the plan of salvation, about how we got sealed in the temple together, and that families are forever, and we'll be able to see my dad again. I spent about maybe an hour and a half talking to them just to try to calm them down. Everything was such a shock to all of us at the time. I knew afterwards that I had a choice of whether or not to go home for the funeral or to stay on my mission. And from then on out, my my mission president tried his hardest to keep me on my mission, because he had told me that this has happened 2 other times to him while I was on his mission as a mission president, and both elders decided to go home, but only one came back. And I told him that I would definitely pray about it. And so the second night that I was there, I knelt down and I prayed and asked Heavenly Father if I needed to go home or not. And I got this overwhelming feeling that I had to go. And I wanted to make sure that it was the Holy Ghost telling me and it wasn't just me. And so I prayed several times to make sure that that's what God wanted me to do. I felt like my mission president felt otherwise. There was one night that and this is when the time had changed for sisters and elders to be in. So sisters had to be in at 8 and elders had to be in at 9. And we had a really good lesson that was going on that was going overtime. And so what had happened is we were in the middle of a lesson, it was past 9 o'clock, and our mission president called. And in the middle of this lesson, we're like, oh my goodness. So my companion answers the phone, and he's like, okay, it's for you. And so I answer it, and my mission president's like, hey, elder, I'm just rounding the corner from the temple, and I will be like 20 minutes to your guys' house. He's like, I need directions. I'm like, well, President, I've been here for a total of like 3 days. I have no idea how to direct you to our house. He's like, okay, let me talk to your companion. And so I gave the phone to my companion, and I'm to the point in my mission where Spanish just rolls off my tongue. And so it was great. So I was able to sit down and teach this couple, it was a young couple, who were just about to have a baby. I was able to teach them about the restoration. And so it was really neat, a really good experience, being able to do that by myself. And once they had done that, we had wrapped up our lesson and we were booking it. We were booking it downhill all the way to our apartment. And so we got all the way to our place. We were drenched in sweat. We were so tired. It was insane. We had our fans up against us, just trying to get cooled down. But we made it in time before the president got there. He ended up getting there, and I didn't know this till he got in, but he had talked to my mom on the phone before he came in. So he came in, gave me a hug. Said that's from your dad, basically. He's like, this hug's from your dad. And then he gave me a blessing. And he then proceeded to tell me that there was Skype and FaceTime and how I could still be at the funeral and still be here on my mission. And I kept telling myself, well, that's not the same, President, because there's a difference between just being present for the funeral or being present for my family who needed me at the time. And I kept telling him that I would pray about it, and I would let him know of what was best. And so he's like, okay, so we'll come to this. So by Monday morning, you need to come with a decision. And I'm going to have your mom call you, and you'll come up with a decision right then and there. And I was like, okay, that works for me. And so the following Sunday, before that Monday, that week actually I was surprised because I was afraid that the situation that had happened to me, that a lot of this would get in the way. And it'd get in the way of my teaching. But it was actually just the opposite. And so actually being able to put into perspective and actually use what you believe in and put it into your life and applying it into your life, it really changes. So with my dad passing away, I was able to have a better understanding of the plan of salvation and God's plan for us. And my testimony grew like 10 times just that week that I was there, knowing that this was God's plan, despite what had happened. So I was able to project that to my the people that I was teaching, and so that was a really neat experience to have, to be able to do that, be able to share my testimony to other people. The following Sunday, we give back, and I tell my companion, because I've had this feeling before, that feeling that I had a feeling in my eye that my eye was getting infected, and I said, Elder, by tomorrow morning, my eye's going to be red and pussy, so just be prepared. And so, sure enough, I wake up in the morning, my eye's super infected. I can barely see out of it. I can barely open my eye. I call the nurse again. She gives me this stuff. I take it, kills my eyesight again. And I have no idea what's going on. And so, once again, I'm wearing my sunglasses during the day. I get to the point where I can't go out. And so what we end up doing is we get permission for my companion to go out with a priest, to go out and proselyte, while another priest stays in the house with me, just to take care of me. I remember doing that, and but before we went out to go proselyte, me and my companion stayed in, and we ate pizza and watched some church movies, because that's all we could do. But when the priest came, he's like, hey, so I have family who need me to go to just next door. And it was a family I come really close to. So we go in there and we have this lesson, and then during the lesson, I just break down. I tell them everything that has happened. Like, this is all that's happening with me right now. And they couldn't believe it. And this family had actually kind of suffered the same thing, a loss of their father and husband. And so they were able to console me in it and help me during that hard time as well. And so they were able to help me and comfort me during that time. So that was really neat. So by that Monday morning, actually, my mom called, and my mom called, and I knew this was the decision that I had to make. I told myself, I really feel like I have to go home and just be home for just a little bit and then come back. But if my mom thinks otherwise, I'll stay. If my mom thinks I need to stay. Sure enough, my mom calls and she tells me that she feels like I need to go. And so we come to the decision that I will leave on that Wednesday. I'll be home on Thursday for the viewing, Friday for the funeral, and I will leave on Saturday to come back. And so we came to that decision. The plane tickets are bought, and I took maybe a fourth of my stuff with me, because I knew I was only going to be there for 3 days, and that I'd be back really soon. The nurse told me before I left that she has no idea what's going on with my eye, and so my mom lined up an appointment for me. So right when I got home, I'd go figure out what this was. And so I go home. I come home to all my friends and my family there trying to cover me as best they could. On Thursday, I went to the doctor, and they told me that it was actually this crazy thing. Like, they had no idea what it was, and I had to go all the way to Salt Lake to figure out what was going on. And the last doctor that I had seen like 4, had told me that I had what's basically a cold sore in my eye. So I got the herpes virus in my eye. So basically, when you get chickenpox, you have the herpes virus in it, and I got the chicken pox when I was younger, and it stays in your nervous system like dormant, and during hard times, under stress, under physical, emotional stress, that it can come out in different ways, like a cold sore on your lip. But in this case, it was in my eye. So I found out that like this kind of thing is like the leading cause of like child blindness. And so I guess I got pretty lucky. I got scarring on my eye, which affected my vision, which was corrected by a hard gas permeable contact that I later got after my mission. But I was told in order to treat it, to treat this infection, that I could not go back to my mission. And I had to stay in the United States. And my doctor told me, I'm not canceling your mission, but I'm telling you, you can't go back to El Salvador. And so it was a really rough time for me after spending, that long in the culture, being immersed in all those kind of things, to knowing that I'm never going to go back. I'm never going to be able to go back. And that, not to mention, 3/4 of my stuff is still there. So I got all that stuff eventually. It didn't matter. But what I thought was going to be 3 days of being home ended up actually being 3 weeks of being home and waiting. I had to turn all my papers in again to go through the Quorum of the 12 or the presidency or whatever to get recalled to a different mission. I knew that they wanted me to keep my Spanish skills, and so I guessed that it'd either be Texas or California. And so I ended up getting a phone call, and it ended up being that I was going to the California Santa Rosa mission. And so 3 weeks later, I get shot off to go to California.